My name is Joshua Davis. I live in New York City. I'm a graphic designer. And I think the rock star thing comes from the tattoos. I've been getting tattooed for the past 15 years, getting tattooed all over the world, and I'm slowly sort of designing myself, and I guess because rock stars get tattooed, I somehow got that label. Something I certainly didn't give myself. My first computer, Commodore 64. Yeah, I had a book on Visual Basic. It was programming for the Commodore 64, and I mostly played games, wrote programs and played games. My favorite game was Bard's Tale. It was horrible, but awesome. No, it was horrible. No, but it was awesome. But it was horrible. Am I a nerd? Yes. I enjoy math. I enjoy math quite a bit. You know, and I spend a lot of time in front of a computer. So I would say that I partake in nerd activities, yes. I'm a big nerd with tattoos. Oh gosh, how many computer languages do I know? I first started with HTML, then I moved on to JavaScript, then I moved on to cascading style sheets. I know a little bit of Perl. My friend Brandon Hall is turning me on to Python. I spend most of my days making money using ActionScript. I know a little Objective-C. It goes on and on and on. Yeah. Once you learn one language, it's very simple to pick up other languages. I would say I probably spend like 80% of my time using ActionScript, but I also tinker in a language called processing that I play with my students. I'm actually, it's funny, I'm actually building a half pipe in my backyard right now. And these guys in California run this streaming web service. It's a group called Influxus, and they just hooked me up with a streaming web server. So I will have a ramp cam, so people can come over and watch people skate the half pipe live. So yeah, I'll be skateboarding until the day I die, until I can't walk. My very first client was the school that I went to. I went to Pratt in Brooklyn, New York, and my first job was making the website for Pratt Institute. So that was like my very first job. And then I think my second job, like within a studio, was I think Microsoft was my second job. And then my first job solo, once I had left a studio and I started my own company, my first job was Volkswagen. You know, I like working with clients, and that's why I would consider myself a designer more than an artist, because I do take on clients for commercial purposes. And I like the challenge. You have a client who comes that has a specific brand that's hiring you to do what you do, but to help perpetuate their brand. So it certainly is a challenge. So I do like working with clients. However, you know, if I have 5 corporate clients for the entire year, I'm busy. So I don't take on a lot of work. I kind of pick and choose. The most challenging was probably Barney's. That was in 1998 or 1999. And I think it was done in Flash 4 or Flash 5. So the technology was kind of in its infancy. And I think what we were trying to do with that experience at that particular time was probably the hardest project I ever worked on. Now I could do it with my eyes closed because technology has advanced so much and I have a better handle on what I'm doing. But then it was sort of new and there wasn't a lot of tools to get done what we needed to get done. So I think Barney's was probably the hardest job I ever did. Yeah, I've gotten a few commissions from a magazine in the States called Seed Magazine. That's all about science, and they've been commissioning works from generative designers to kind of mix science and design. And I think some of the data visualization stuff that's come out of these collaborations with Seed Magazine is beautiful. I think it's exciting. However, my strong point is not doing data visualization. I really kind of focus on doing algorithmic systems. And so there's maybe like 4 or 5 guys who I think are kind of the best at doing scientific data visualization, and I kind of let them do it. I just make things pretty. I do have a project right now that's within the scope of computer vision, which is computer intelligence, which is sort of an interesting science. There is an extreme level of control that I program into these things, but there's still this level of surprise, because oftentimes I don't know what the computer's going to do. I mean, I can give it a bunch of rules and I can give it a bunch of variables and conditions and statements, but still, you know, there are still moments when the program shocks me because it makes something that I never expected. So it's a little bit of both. I'd be a gardener. Yeah, I really, I have a house in Long Island, and my gardening obsession is extreme. I love working with plants and flowers and trees. I'd be a gardener. I would say fashion. I would say fashion. I've done stuff with architecture in the past a few years ago. I'm definitely interested in doing stuff with fashion, and in terms of like collaborating with textile design. I mean, obviously I'm here in Istanbul. I have a great desire to have my work on rugs. So textile, yeah, fashion. If Vivienne Westwood wants to give me a call. Adobe is in the business of making tools, and I actually just watched a video online yesterday with Shantanu from Adobe, and he basically was very calm and very passive, and he's basically like, Adobe's in the business of making tools, and there are tools for InDesign and Dreamweaver to publish content on the iPad, but it's so focused on Flash. But Adobe makes a lot of products, so I think it's good for them, that for both parties, that they're making all this noise. But it's kind of, for me, it's kind of a moot point. It's, who cares? Oh well, I'm all about open source. I think knowledge should be free, and I think that if you make something that only others can benefit from the lessons that you've learned and the failures that you encountered. So I'm a big supporter of open source. Pretty much everything I make, I give away. So I can't sing open source praises enough. Give shit away. Give shit away. No, I actually have 3 projects right now that I can't even talk about, and they won't launch until 2011. So I've got some exciting stuff happening, but obviously one thing I can talk about is me and my buddy Brandon Hall are working on an open source visual framework for ActionScript 3 called Hype. That's why I'm here in Istanbul, is teaching a day-long workshop for that. So that's kind of like my part-time love affair right now. Visual culture in the United States, it's McDonald's and Disneyland. I don't have a lot to draw on in the United States. So when I travel places, like let's say I go to Lisbon, Portugal, you know, they've got all the ceramic tiles, you know. Here in Istanbul, obviously you have the Grand Bazaar, which visually is crazy, crazy. I'm looking at a lot of lanterns I want to buy, a lot of backgammon sets I want to buy, a lot of rugs that I can't afford. So I'll look at that stuff in terms of that visual identity, that visual culture that's you, and I'll take a lot of pictures and I'll take a lot of video, and then I'll come home and I'll just sort of digest it. And eventually I'll steal it and reinvent it in a way that's me. I'll tell you a story. When I was in New York working in a studio, I would work 8 hours a day at a studio, doing client work for my bosses. And then when I got home, I worked on another 8 hours on stuff that I liked. And I used the medium of the internet, and I used the medium of internet technology to deliver these ideas. Whether they were good, bad, ugly, pretty, it was just a vehicle for me to get out ideas. And what happened is that eventually I was putting up work that I loved. And what happened is that's how I got my first job. That's how I got that job with Volkswagen, was them seeing my personal work. And in the end, what happened is I was able to make enough money doing this work that I loved that I didn't have to work at the studio anymore. And so now I have a full-time job doing work that I would make anyway, even if you didn't pay me to do it. And so I would say that if you have passion and determination, good things will happen.